Hello guys, welcome to the last week of September. The first day of fall was this past week, and it is starting to really feel like it up here. It was in the 40s this morning up here in Canada. So I'm very excited. The fall is a great time of year, the changing of the leaves, everything like that. We've already started to see some leaves fall and change color. I want to go ahead and get into what I did this week. I posted about the cannabis sector. You guys all know about Tilray. Covered that a little bit in here. Also covered two of the longer term holdings that I do have, and a list as well of other potential cannabis sector stocks to check out potentially for longer term holdings. As you know, October 17th will be the legalization day up here in Canada, and many of the cannabis sector stocks have just taken off and grown exponentially. So there's definitely that movement there. You will see probably Tilray will be a little bit like Bitcoin. It was that big mover in the sector, and boom, it ran up, and now it's already down 50% from that high of $300. So definitely be cautious with the lower float stocks. They can run up like crazy, however they can drop just as fast, if not faster. Also, there will be a sale coming up for my watch list coming up for Columbus Day, so definitely check that out. I'll probably start posting about it on Wednesday on Twitter. And we'll go ahead and we'll get into the watch list and review of the indexes for the week. This is always my opinion. I did have my Series 7 back in 2000 and it is not active, so please trade with your own due diligence. These are all my opinions. You have seen the SPY right here. We've had the SPY in a general upward trend. Of course, you always have everybody pouring their money into their 401ks, so everyone is buying many of the S&P 500 stocks because they tend to have good value behind them and they're good growth. Well, we had this downward trend right here, and sure enough, it broke out from that trend. Like I said, having volume, when you break a trend line, just like this down here, you see that big volume candle, boom, ran it up, and then it pulled back a little bit. Two big things coming up this week. We have the FOMC meeting with interest rates, and we also have the tariffs going into effect on Tuesday for China. So this could just be the beginning of a downward trend to touch this uptrend line as well. But we shall see, because really the market is going to be in control. However, you can see we had this massive candle going up and a bigger candle selling. You know, every time that we've had these really big candles, you've seen that it drops down. We haven't really had really big candles. Let's see, back here we have a massive candle, even bigger volume, and it dropped down further down here to the 280s. Let's go back to January. So back in, February here, we had this massive drop down. So we have massive candles. We had bigger candle here, even bigger the next one, and then finally where it found a bit of a bottom, a massive candle here. And so definitely keep it on watch, because as we start to see this volume increasing, it could be more of those larger, big 5 major houses starting to sell and take profits and potentially move it over into other sectors like gold and oil, which we did see big movements this week. So we'll get into NASDAQ, QQQ. When we back it out on the daily chart, you can see we did have this upward trend line. We hit a new high, pulled back to the upward, that was downward trend, upward trend line here, and it's been testing this resistance level right here of about 184.66. It tested it on Thursday, went right to it, opened, closed at it, then opened up above and dropped down. So we shall see if it breaks below this downward trend line here and it starts to pull back down further down to these support levels down here. And finally, we have the Russell. So we've got Russell once again ran up, found new highs, pulled back below this resistance line. So this one down here, tested it, held around, bounced between the two, dropped a little bit, then ran up and tested the downward trend line, and again opened at the high of this resistance line and closed almost at this support line. So definitely keep it for watch. I think, especially with Russell, if it breaks one direction or the other out of these two resistance and support lines, that then the momentum is going to be determined. But also make sure, guys, when you are trading, you are watching the volume. It is crucial. I mean, look back here. When we had these big downward trends, look, massive volume candles, okay? And here as well, massive volume candle. Here as well, massive volume candle. It's no wonder that when it starts to sell, people have stops that are in place, and then that train going down really continues. All right, so we'll get into the longs for the week. We have some that are breaking out 52-week highs. I'll pull it up over here. So we've got Ubnt, a communications network stock, hit 52-week high, all year lifetime high, and they do have 17.4 million in the float, 67.2% short float volume on Friday, had almost 1 million shares traded. When we back it out to our 15-minute chart, I would say look at this line right here, 98.17 for support, resistance of the high of the year, 150, and again, this could definitely run if it does have the volume behind it. We did have a bit more volume here, so it could be running up a little bit more. Biggest volume after that was earnings back on May 9th, besides this downward selling day here on June 22nd. So keep it on watch. We also have AAN, Aaron's Inc. Again, breakout right here from the prior high of around 53.32. So I put a support level of 55.05, resistance of 55.64. And they do have 68.14 million on the float, 33.1% short float volume on Friday. After that, we have CCO, Clear Channel. If anybody knows Philadelphia, you've got Clear Channel all over the place down there with outdoor billboards and advertising. Also as well at the Comcast Center. So here we've got it breaking above the prior high, 52-week breakout. So I put a support of 560, pretty much just at that, at that prior resistance, and the resistance for 585. Now they do have 35.9 million in the float and 35.6% short float volume. And then we have OCC. It's funny, CCO and OCC. So we have Optical Cable Corporation, again another networking technology corporation company. 405 for support, and I would say actually lift it up here just a little bit further, 450, 445, 450 for resistance on the chart. 52-week breakout. Again, watching that volume, guys, it is important. See, it just sort of meanders along in consolidation here, and then boom, we start to have action, we start to have volume, and then things start happening. So keep that one on watch. They have 5.29 million in the float, and it was 66.4% short float volume on Friday. LXFR again breaking out. Look for a support level of 23.69 and a resistance of 24.27. It is getting up there. We just broke out right here on Thursday from that prior resistance level. So keep it on watch. If you watch it here, it had roughly 2 weeks upward trend, pulled back. And so we could have potential another 2 more weeks upward trend. Here it looks like it had about a week upward trend before a little pullback and then continued on up. So keep watch for further continuation of the breakout there. For the shorts for the week, we have Weyerhaeuser Company, financial sector. So this one, we pull it back, 52-week lows, new lows for the company. So I would put it on watch for support of 32.95, the low of the year, and resistance of 33.13, where that prior prior support was. Flip it to resistance. And they do have 755 million in the float. You can see on the year again, whoop, it has that all-time low that happened. If we pull it back to the 5-year chart, you can see it does look like it's right at about a support level. So if it does break down further, it could go to 32 and then on down to 31. Next on the list, you have THO. THO I had on my watch list on Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday for potential short, and it did have a nice drop down to it. Then we had earnings, so keep this one on watch as well. First red day of earnings, there tends to be 3 days. You can see back here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red days on earnings there. Many times you will see the trend continue in that direction for a good week or so. Oh, excuse me, this is the weekly chart. Let's put it on the daily. Okay, so we did have the earnings and it dropped 2 days red consolidation. So you'll see many times it's 2 to 3 days of that continuation of that trend before people start to sell off or buy to reverse the trend line. So this one does have 49.9 million in the float. Next on the list, we have SPB, Spectrum Brands. So I would look at it on the 15-minute chart. I don't know what's going on up there. How did I put those numbers in? I have 80.8 as my support. Don't know why it's here. 80.8 down here. Put it down there. And for resistance, I have 81.10. 81, we'll put it 81.20, 25, right around there. All right, so keep this one on watch as the low of the year, setting up, not low of the year, excuse me, just a support level. It looks like it could be broken. We could have a void to fill down below. Down here could go down potentially to 75. So keep that one on watch. They do have 47 million in the float. We also have ONCE, Spark Therapeutics. So we had a drop in the earnings, ran up. This is the 15 exponential moving average, pulled back, and looks like if it does break right here, breaks the support of 54.55, could go down further to 52.86 and then drop down from there. So keep that one on watch. I would say 55.70 as a resistance to watch, and then we'll just see. The market will decide, but we do have bigger volume as well, so that could indicate that there are more people thinking that it could drop down further from here. Last one is BABA. So I did have BABA on the longer term swing list last week because I thought, oh, okay, great. The trade talks have happened, and now potentially we are going to see that this will continue in the upward movement. But then I forgot about the fact that it will be going into effect and really hurting everything. So again, it dropped down, it ran up. There was a nice $10 move right here on BABA. And if we draw a trend line right here, let's draw a quick trend line right here. Let's see. You can see really that this has gone, it really touched that trend line and it pulled back. So what we would need to see for further confirmation is for it to really break that and break it with volume. Right here, we also tested the 170 level as well, right here. Right here. Here's a 170. So it really tested the 170 mental number level right here. Came up to it once before and pulled, and then it was sort of like an abandoned baby candle down here and then ran up. So once again, it's somewhat done that. It's in a nice W formation. However, we did have a red candle on Friday, pulled back to below the low of Thursday, but right at the 15 exponential moving average. So it could go one way or the other. However, I am leaning more short biased on this one now because it tested that trend line, tested the hold number, pulled back, and we have the tariffs going into effect on Tuesday. So that's why I am thinking that this is also going to be more of a downward trend, potentially find a double bottom and then run up from there. But we shall see. The market will determine. On the longer term swing list, I have Whirlpool. Now Whirlpool, again, it has this nice upward movement. It slowly seems like it's found a nice little bottom down here. Every time that it's found a bottom, you know, it's this area right here, it has somewhat come above it. So we shall see if it holds above 123. If it goes down and it breaks down below 121, I would say no. But if it can break out and close above that 124.70 area, I think it's definitely an upward movement, but we will see. Just had earnings back July 23rd. So keep it on watch for earnings for this upcoming earnings season. It could be really interesting and really put in an upward trend. Next, we also have SYN. SYN is a lower float stock. Look at this volume starting to upward trend. It's breaking all the trend lines. They are curling up. We've got the 4 curling over the 8. So it could have nice movement back up. We are just 70 cents off the bottom, the low of the year. Look at that range, 36.7. But we did have a split back here. What do we have? 2 for 70 shares. So 1 for 35. So that's a bit inflated. So I would look more at right here. You know, we are testing that level right from the split, the low of that day. So if it does break out and holds above the 250 area, I think it's pretty good. I would use $2 more as my potential exit for it for longer term. We also have Frontline shares. So let's pull it back to the 1-year chart. It looks like it's in a nice upward trend movement. We've got volume starting to pour in. If it can break the 560 level, I think it could definitely really run up. We're right sort of in the middle of the trend for the year, so keep it on watch. You know, if I were to get in, I would say let it pull back maybe just a little bit, 535 area, and then use maybe 525 as potential stop, mental stop. And last but not least, we have ASTC. So this one is lower float. Look at this. We've had massive runs in the past. Let's go to a 1-year chart. Okay. And it's run up, broke this resistance area right here at 350, ran up. I think it's a bit inflated at the moment. I would look for it to come back down just a bit because we are also overbought on the RSI. But you know, when we have this massive move with these low floats, you do many times see them come back to reality and then have that upward trend again. Perfect example, massive craziness with Tilray right here. I mean, look at this, went to 300, then closed at 123. I think after hours, yeah, went down to 100. So this one, I think Tilray is not a bad one to own overall, but I would think look for it more to come back to reality, maybe back down here to the 50s range, personally myself, before I would get into it for a longer term holding, because just as quickly as it goes up, look, it took 3 days and it's right back down to where it was. So this could be a bit of a head and shoulders, you know, like a shoulder here, head, and then a bit of a shoulder bounce and then further drop, or it could find consolidation and continue up here. So keep it on watch, but I think it's trading, you know, like half of the S&P value of all the S&P stocks. It's pretty much right up there, and it's had, I think it was 29 million in sales over the last year. So just keep that in mind with the float of the stock, everything like that, price to earnings, as far as keeping it for a longer term holding value stock. It was great momentum play, but it looks like that momentum trade is over right now, and it needs to come back down to reality before getting into it for a longer term holding. All right, guys, if you like my content, please make sure to like and subscribe. If there's anything you want me to review, shoot it on over in a comment or on my email at carpeprofit@gmail.com. Have a great week ahead. Carpe Profit.